What age group is this for, Mataji?
This is for the adults, and yeah, this is for the adults. We don't have Madhava class on Tuesday. We have it on Mondays, and we have the youth class on Thursdays. So this class is exclusively for the adults, and it's for the newcomers who are new to the Bhagavad Gita. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, see you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Mataji, should we wait for a couple of minutes for the other?
Yeah, I think so. Then we can wait.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Our glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining us today in our third session of Bhagavad Gita series. So today we'll be doing the third chapter, which is Karma Yoga. And as you all know that we are three facilitators who are going to take on this journey of Bhagavad Gita. And today we have Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji with us, who's going to enlighten us with the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And thank you all so much for joining. And I'm really grateful to all of you for all your commitment, and really appreciate if that commitment goes on further till the 18 chapters. So without further ado, now we'll start the class, and I'll hand over the call to Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Mataji, please take over. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Kirtira Sundari Mataji. If you run into any audio issues, meaning if you cannot hear me, just alert me so that I can connect to a different speaker. But if the audio is good like this, I'll continue. Okay. So I welcome everyone again. And yes, we are continuing our series of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 18 chapters in 18 weeks. And today is the third session, which means we are going to cover the third chapter. The third week, we are covering the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So thank you all so much for joining us again. And we'll start off with the invocation prayers for auspiciousness. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschayata Deshatarine. This is a prayer to our spiritual master and the disciplic succession in which we receive this knowledge. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. After which we chant a Panchatattva mantra and then the Maha Mantra, which is the only sole source of deliverance in this age of Kali. So before we head into chapter 3, we are going to have a quick review of what we have seen in chapter 1 and 2. So in our first session, you were introduced to the background of the Bhagavad Gita, how the Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken on a battlefield. You heard about the background of the fight between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, and how Arjuna, being one of the Pandavas, was seated on a chariot with Krishna as his charioteer. The battle was about to begin, and at that time, Arjuna, he requested Krishna, his charioteer, to draw the chariot in between the two armies so that he could get a good view of everyone who were desirous to fight. And looking at them, he lost all composure and he said that he's not going to fight. So he felt very bad seeing his own relatives in front of him like this, ready to fight. And he didn't want to kill anyone. He didn't want to be the cause of such a big massacre. So he felt very, very terrible. And he looked at Krishna and he said, "My dear Krishna, I don't want to fight." And the different reasons he gave were out of compassion, first reason. Second reason is he didn't feel that there would be any enjoyment if his relatives were not with him. So what is the use of winning a war? The third reason he gave was fear of sinful reactions. Because if you end up killing a lot of people, obviously you have to bear the sin. And then he said the next reason he gave was destruction of family traditions. Because if the members of the family are killed, the children would become orphans and the entire family tradition would actually be destroyed. And then the last reason was indecision. He just couldn't take a decision whether he wanted to fight or he didn't want to fight. So he cast down his Gandiva bow, which is the most celebrated bow at that time. He cast it down. He had in fact taken a vow that he would never leave his Gandiva bow. But at this point in time, when he was in a position where he had to face his own close relatives, kill his teachers, his fathers-in-law, and so many others who were there in front of him, he just cast down his bow and he told Krishna, "I just cannot fight." So when Krishna heard this statement from Arjuna that he wouldn't fight, Krishna, he began to give appropriate answers to each one of these reasons that Arjuna stated. So right there in the first chapter, we see, in the second chapter, we see Krishna giving answers to all these different reasons that were stated by Arjuna. Arjuna, he stated 4 reasons in the first chapter, 1 reason, which is indecision, in the second chapter. And Krishna gave answers to all these reasons that Arjuna stated in the very second chapter. And last week, you all heard the second chapter, and I hope you all remember what you heard. So Krishna gave very befitting answers, and we are going to head into the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called as Karma Yoga. Now, this is such an integral part of our very existence. We all do a lot of karma yoga. So we are really going to see what it means, what Krishna says it means. So that is what we're going to see in this section. So like we have always been doing, we'll take up an acronym and then we'll try to explain this entire chapter in terms of this acronym. So the acronym for the third chapter is TREE, T-R-E-E, TREE. And T stands for Tyaga. Tyaga in Sanskrit means renunciation. In most Indian languages, we have heard this term Tyaga, right? It's all derived from the Sanskrit word. And Tyaga is discussed within verses 1 to 9. The next is R. R stands for the rungs of the yoga ladder. So you all have seen a ladder has rungs, right? So like that, the rungs of the yoga ladder. So we are going to soon understand what the yoga ladder is. And this is elaborated through verses 10 to 16. The next is E, exemplary, someone who's exemplary. And this is discussed by Krishna in this chapter. And these are verses 17 to 35. And finally, E, the enemy of the soul. Sounds a little heavy. The enemy of the soul. And these are verses 36 to 43. So this chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, and it has 43 verses that we are going to understand. So as we have been doing in the previous two chapters, it is going to be an overview. It's going to be an overview of the entire chapter 3. Now think about a tree. The tree is actually very, very responsible, very determined, and very dutiful. The tree stands out there all day and all night, whether it is sunshine or it's rain or whatever the situation may be. The tree just stands there. And what does it do standing there? It really gives whatever it has. So the tree gives shade to weary travelers. It gives fruits and flowers. So it's all about giving without any expectations. The tree has no expectations to, get something in return. So it gives nice juicy fruits to a person who's sitting down under the tree. It gives him shade. And if the same person who's sitting under the shade of a tree takes an axe and cuts off the tree doesn't even revolt. So the tree continues to perform its duty under all circumstances without any reward. So this is the nature of a tree, and that is what Karma Yoga is all about. So with just this acronym, you can get an idea of what Karma Yoga is. So the quality of a tree is dutiful. It is very determined. Similarly, Karma Yoga, the technique of achieving spiritual connection with God through your daily work, is actually discussed in this chapter. How to do it and how to happily do it, how to do it successfully. That is what Krishna is going to teach us. So I'll ask you one question, okay? Try to type the answer as quickly as possible so that we can save time. What is one takeaway, one lesson, or one foundational lesson that Krishna told in chapter 2? The essence of chapter 2 in one sentence. Can someone tell me what is the foundation of the Bhagavad Gita? What is the first lesson you need to take away from the Bhagavad Gita that was spoken in chapter 2? Can you all quickly type the answer? I'll just give you a few seconds. It's very simple. Just think, what was the focus of second chapter? And try to give me answers. We are not the body. Yes, perfect. Yes, Aparna, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Soul, yes, Karunika Gopika Mataji. Thank you so much. Yeah, so yes, I see some more people. Yeah. So yes, we are not the body and we are the soul. That is the essence of the second chapter, right? So now, Krishna, he spoke a lot of things in the second chapter. You must have heard in the Mataji's class last session, and Krishna was talking about the soul. He told Arjuna how Arjuna should develop equanimity. He should reject all abominable actions, and he should develop qualities of a sthita prajna, meaning a sage of steady mind. So he should become very steady. He should tolerate dualities. He should develop sense control, and he should be very good. He should not do wrong things. He should not involve in abominable activities. And after telling all this, Krishna said, okay, Arjuna, now you should fight. Right? So he talks about a steady minded person, how he's very renounced. And at the same time, Krishna tells Arjuna, you must also fight. So when the second chapter ended like this, Arjuna was totally confused. So he told Krishna right away there, he said, what are you telling me? Why are you giving me these equivocal instructions? You're telling me you're the soul and you have to be very balanced and you should develop renunciation, you should develop great qualities, avoid sense control, don't do wrong things, but then at the same time fight. Isn't this contradicting? So you're telling intelligence is better than karma or action. Then why should I fight? Karma means action, right? So he's telling, then why should I fight? Should I really work or should I renounce? Should I engage in karma or should I just get into some sort of a mental speculation, jnana, and then renounce this entire world? So what is it that I'm expected to do? So he asked Krishna this question. It's very beautiful that our Vedic scriptures, they are all about questions and answers. So any literature you take up, it's all about questions and answers. So Arjuna, until and unless good questions are asked, good content never comes out, right? So the Bhagavad Gita is all about answers from Krishna. And who's the person who's asking questions? Arjuna is asking questions. So it's very important for us to ask questions if we really want to develop knowledge. If you really want to know the right knowledge, it's important to not be shy and ask lots of questions. Okay, so Arjuna started off asking these questions. So Krishna, he said, Arjuna, there are two kinds of people. One set of people are the Jnana Yogis. They decide to renounce everything because they think that this world is a miserable place to live in. They don't want to live here, so they just want to renounce sense enjoyment. They don't want to do anything with this world. But there are other set of people who are called as the Karma Yogis, and they follow prescribed duties. So everyone in this world, at least everyone in this forum who's here, we all have prescribed duties and we are expected to carry out those duties. Arjuna said there are two kinds of people, but among these two kinds of people, there is one little problem with these Jnana Yogis, or people who are thinking they want to renounce everything. What is the problem with them? The problem with them is premature renunciation. They renounce prematurely without developing proper purification of heart. Before you can decide to renounce, the first thing you must do is first cleanse yourself. Become really, really pure and be worthy of renunciation before you can actually take that step. But most people, what they do is they think they want to renounce because they are fed up of this world. But the renunciation is very premature. And such sort of a renunciation, which is premature, which is without purification of a heart, is very abominable. It's not at all nice because one cannot truly remain even for a moment without acting. Everyone is acting every minute, okay? For example, sometimes I get a phone call from my mother and my mother says, oh, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing much, I'm not doing anything. Actually, is that the right answer? No, it's not the right answer because continuously I'm doing something. Whether I'm doing it voluntarily or involuntarily, everybody is acting continuously. My eyes are seeing, my nose is smelling, my tongue is tasting, I'm munching something when I'm talking to her. I'm looking at the computer while I'm talking to her. I have some sweater on me because it's cold when I'm talking to her. So there is this perception of the skin like that. There are so many things that is going on within an individual. And besides that, of course, the mind is constantly active. So like this, a person cannot remain inactive even for a second. So that's why Krishna tells inaction is unnatural. He says in the 5th verse of this chapter, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatutishtati akarmakrit. He says not even a second can you just remain inactive like this. Everybody is forced to act every minute of their life based on the qualities that he has inherited, based on his innate qualities. Everyone is acting and one cannot refrain from work even for a moment. It is impossible. So having said that, if one cannot stop acting, especially you see, this mind is very, very uncontrollable. So one is not ceasing from activity even for a second. So when I'm not ceasing from activity even for a second, my senses are constantly demanding. And I cannot say that I'm going to renounce everything abruptly. If I try to do that, if I abruptly try to renounce, then I'm only a mithyachara. Mityachara in Sanskrit means a pretender. I'm just a pretender. And it's a very beautiful verse. Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mityachara sa uchyate. One who restrains his senses of action, but whose mind always dwells on the sense objects, certainly deludes himself, and he's called a pretender. So you see this picture, everybody can relate to this picture. Here is a sannyasi Baba who's sleeping there, and a wonderful woman is fanning him, and you have all these politicians going and falling at his feet. So do you think he's authentic? Obviously, no, he's only a pretender. So this is what Krishna is telling us in the Bhagavad Gita. So don't get fooled. We oftentimes get fooled very easily. But if we open the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has all the valuable instructions for us. So not only is he actually fooling everyone else, not only is he deluding others, he's actually deluding himself too. That's what Krishna is telling. He certainly deludes himself, and he is called as a pretender. So if anyone wants to know who's a real person and who's a fake Baba or fake Swami, you can look at this verse in Bhagavad Gita, and there is so much explanation about it. Krishna has given us everything. All that we need to do is just open the book. But we have so much reservations before we can open up a spiritual book. So Krishna is saying that a pretender, a mityachara, he restrains his senses from action, but he's constantly dwelling on these sense objects in his mind. So even if he's externally telling, I'm a sannyasi, in his mind, he's thinking about how nice it will be if I get this pleasure, if I get that pleasure. That is actually there in his mind. It's filled up in his mind, and it in fact sometimes comes out through his words and his actions. Because if something is filled up in your mind so much, ultimately it comes out in some form or the other through your actions or your words, and then you get caught. So he deludes himself and he deludes everyone around him. So this is the nature of a pretender. Now we were talking about renunciation, right? And we also touched upon fake renunciation. Immature renunciation without purification of heart is fake renunciation. Now fake renunciation, it works at different levels. It's very interesting. There are two kinds of fake renunciations that is discussed. One is Markat Vairagya and the other is Phalgu Vairagya. So Markata in Sanskrit again means a monkey. A monkey, when you look at a monkey doesn't wear clothes like us. So, we are all very sophisticated human beings, and we wear clothes and we have proper shelter. We eat in a very civilized manner. We do all of that. But monkeys in general, they don't even wear clothes. So externally, when you look at a monkey may look like as if this monkey is very renounced. Oh, he doesn't even need clothes. He's like a Babaji. He doesn't need anything. But then look at how a monkey behaves. A monkey is always after sense gratification. He's very restless. He's jumping from one tree to the other. He's trying to grab the fruits that is there in your hand. He's constantly looking for something. And a male monkey is always with tons of female monkeys. So this is how a monkey is. So a monkey externally may appear renounced, but internally a monkey is not at all renounced. So this kind of renunciation that directly deals with sense gratification, that is called as Markata Vairagya. Now there is another kind of Vairagya, which is also fake, which is called as Phalgu Vairagya. Now there is a river in India. It's pretty cool. So there's a river. And this river, it looks like a dry sand bed. You look at this picture here. This is the Phalgu River in India. So you look, it's all sand. It doesn't appear that this river is flowing or there is water beneath it. But then in some spots, if you just dig with your finger, you can literally see a river flowing underneath. You can go look at on Wikipedia or Google it. Google Phalgu River and you'll understand that there is a river flowing beneath that bed. So externally, it looks all dry. It looks dry. There is nothing on top. Oh, it's all dead and it's renounced. But internally, there is a constant flow of desires. And you know what is the greatest desire that one has and one cannot beat, which is like so detrimental? Anyone can take a guess. If you want, you can type on the chat box, which is the most difficult desire for these so-called fake sannyasis to get rid of. For a person who's saying, I'm renounced, but what is the greatest desire you think he can never get over? Desire for respect, excellent. and desire for respect so much so that one thinks that I am God. I want to be God. How many of you have heard this from fake sannyasis? I am God, or have his followers call him God. This is the great desire of a person who's a fake sannyasi. This is the incessant flow that is running under his heart. I want to be God. So like this, there are two kinds. Both are fake renunciation. Both are sometimes used interchangeably, but then because it directly relates to different examples, we try to analyze it in a more deeper fashion. But there is another vairagya called as yukta vairagya. Yukta vairagya means to use things properly in the right way, but not say that I want to renounce this. Like, for example, I'm talking on a Zoom call through this laptop, which has a microphone and a camera in front of me. And you all are using several gadgets there. You're listening to me through the gadget. And we are all doing some good stuff here, right? We are all doing constructive work here. Everyone is doing something nice. Now, I cannot say that I'm going to renounce everything. I don't want this laptop. I'm a spiritualist. I'm not going to touch a laptop. I'm not going to touch a smartphone because I'm a spiritualist. No, I'm going to use it in the right fashion. If I use it in the right fashion, especially if I use it in a way that I can use it in the service of God, then that vairagya is not fake. Okay, it's called as yukta vairagya, using it in the right purpose. I'm not using it for the wrong purpose. So there is vairagya. Okay, I'm not using it for the wrong purpose, but I use it in the right way. For example, you see this picture here. There is an angry surgeon and he has a knife in his hand. Now the knife itself, is it good or bad? Is the computer itself good or bad? Is this lampshade by itself good or bad? Can you tell me if it's good or bad? An object by itself, so many objects you see around your house or around your existence. You see a knife, you see a lamp, you see a smartphone, you see a computer. Is it good or bad? You can text. You think it's good? Depends on our action. Yes, Avanish Kumar, yes. It depends on our action, how we use it. A knife in the hand of a surgeon is so useful. It's going to actually save lives. He's going to do a useful surgery and then he's going to save your life. He'll probably do a liver transplant and he'll make you alive. I mean, he'll make you functional. It's useful. But then the same knife, if it's in the hand of a murderer, it's bad. So therefore, using things in a constructive way, especially using it in the service of God, is still considered vairagya, but it is yukta vairagya. Okay? So we must aspire for yukta vairagya. Krishna is told, he started building on the case that you must work, you must work. That's the case that he's building. And he's talking about fake renunciations, different kinds of fake renunciation. But in renunciation also, there is another level called as yukta vairagya. So Krishna says it's better to work. A sincere person, he performs karma yoga with his senses. I use my senses, but I do it without an attachment. I'm not overly obsessed with this phone. This phone is not my life, right? So like that, a sincere person performs his action with his senses, but without attachment. Such a person, I want such a person. Such a person is far superior than a show-bottle spiritualist who simply cheats innocent public. So Krishna knows in Kali Yuga, you're going to have plenty of people like this. And, there are so many show bottle spiritualists. There's one Acharya by the name Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura. He made a fantastic statement. He said, a sincere sweeper in the street is far better than a charlatan meditator who meditates only for the sake of making a living. That is what is happening today. Just to collect funds, just to make a living, there are so many fake people out there. So Krishna says, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try to be a pretender. Do your work. Do your work. You all have responsibilities. You're all in different varnas and ashramas, especially here Arjuna. He was a Kshatriya. He better act up and he better be responsible. A Kshatriya's duty is to actually give protection to his citizens. So he must do his niyatam karma. He must do his niyatam karma, and this niyatam karma is far better than renunciation of action or karma sannyasa. Because One cannot maintain his body without work. You cannot even maintain yourself without work. Even if you think, I don't want to go to work, I prefer begging, you have to do some work to beg. You have to go door to door holding a doll, right? Some action has to be done, even if you have to maintain your body. So there is no question of escapism. This is what Krishna is telling. So some life lessons from this section. First and foremost thing, of course, don't judge by externals. Don't judge a book by its cover. You must have heard these statements over and over. The actual renunciation is the internal shift in consciousness. It's not about the external. It's not about me wearing a saffron clothing and then going on the streets and cheating people. But it's actually an internal shift in consciousness. I can stay at home, I can do my activities and still be renounced if my consciousness has that shift. So Krishna tells Arjuna that it's perfectly fine to fight the war. You are a Kshatriya. You have come here on the battlefield. Everybody is here ready to fight. And as a soldier, do your duty. What are you waiting for? Why do you want to run away to the forest? So you have started it, better finish off your karma. This is what Krishna actually tells Arjuna. Now, there is a problem. Okay, I must do my duty. I must do activity. But karma is binding, right? You all know the karma commonly is known as something that goes around, comes around. Every action has a reaction. So whenever you see people talking about, oh, I have this karma, I have that karma, I've got this karma from my past birth. What does it mean? It's like, okay, whatever goes around, comes around. That is one definition of karma. Why is it defined like that? Because every activity, every karma you do, karma is also activity, right? So every karma you do, its nature itself is like that. It either gives you good results or it gives you bad results. So therefore it is binding. So karma, if I act, I cannot be free from bondage, right? I cannot be free from bondage. If I do something good, I have a good result. And if I do something bad, I have a bad result. This is common sense. So it will keep you bound. You'll keep repeating and the cycle goes on and on. The cycle of karma is very complicated. Everyone knows that. So how do I get free from this bondage now that I have to act? So Krishna gives the solution. There itself, he gives you the solution. He says, without performing actions as a sacrifice for Vishnu, people are bound by their actions. If you do your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, then you are free from bondage. Very simple formula. Dovetail, just do your activity, but then do it as a yajna, do it as a sacrifice. But to whom should I do it as a sacrifice? Do it to the Supreme Lord. To the Supreme Lord, who's the source of everything, who has brought you here, because of whom you are actually here, you're existing. Do it as a sacrifice to him. Do it as a sacrifice to Vishnu, and then you will be free from bondage. So Krishna came up to this conclusion to educate Arjuna. When Arjuna had this confusion that should I work or should I not work? Renunciation is better or action is better? When he asked that question, Krishna said, better than renunciation is work. But better than just doing work and thinking about how I'm going to get entangled in this work, it is better to work for Vishnu, meaning carry out your daily activities, but with a consciousness that you're doing it for the pleasure of God. Okay, so that's how you're supposed to work. And he says, see, we are all not perfect here, right? We all have desires. Everyone, you came across this beautiful verse in the previous chapter, Karmanye vadikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. And those who are from the 80s and 90s generation, you must have seen this B.R. Chopra's Mahabharata. It starts with Karmanye vadikaraste. So that's how it starts, right? And then the translation is so famous. Anybody in India, everyone knows the translation. Oh, do your duty, don't expect results. But then they forget the second half of the verse, right? Forget means what? If I do something, I am going to get some reaction. How can I forget it? It will come. Whether you like it or not, it will come. But what should you do after that? That is the second half of the verse. And Indu Mataji was also pointing this out in the previous session. This is the second half of the verse is do it and give it to Krishna as an offering. So we miss out on the second part and we just talk about the first part. So if we have not given up the desires for the results of our action, what we can do is we can continue to perform our work. Okay, I still have the desire. I'm maintaining the desire. It's okay. It's okay. You continue to perform the work, but continue to perform the work, continue to maintain your desire, but do it in a religious way. If you do it in a religious way, eventually the purification will happen. This is what Krishna is telling. Krishna is telling, yeah, you should do it as a sacrifice for me, and you should not maintain desires and just give it to me. But then if you're not able to do it, you're still maintaining desires. It's normal. Everyone maintains desires. Do it in a religious way. Don't do it in an irreligious way. And eventually you will get purified. So the gist of this entire section, Tyaga, is that true renunciation is to give up this mentality that one is the controller and one is the enjoyer of all his deeds. One is not the controller, one is not the enjoyer. But then how do I solve the problem? I offer the results of my daily work in terms of money, knowledge, influence, and so on to God, knowing that God is the ultimate enjoyer and controller. When I do this, I can achieve the real state of renunciation. So this is the actual definition of renunciation, successful renunciation that Krishna is talking about. So now we are going to move to the next section, which is our rungs of the ladder. And these are verses 10 to 16. Now Krishna said, do yajna, do sacrifice. He said all that. Renounce, give those results of the actions. He said all this, right? Now, is this world even designed for sacrifice? Is sacrifice even possible in this world? So in these verses, Krishna now begins to tell us about this, how nicely this entire universe is actually designed for sacrifice. And one can attain all happiness. Is sacrifice depressing? No. Krishna says one can attain all happiness just by performing yajna, just by performing sacrifice. And then he gives the entire formula. He tells how he designed this entire world. This entire world was designed in a way that during the beginning of creation, the Lord, he sent forth hosts of demigods and human beings, and he told them, cooperate with each other. By mutual cooperation, you all can live happily in this world. And he said one more thing, sacrifice should always be dovetailed to the Supreme Lord. Okay, any form of sacrifice is directly dovetailed to the Supreme Lord, who's the source of everything. So the best and the easiest way that a person can perform sacrifice on a daily basis, is to offer whatever you're eating to God and then accept it as prasadam. If you're doing this simple sacrifice, is it easy? Yes, it is very easy. Is it practical in this world? Extremely practical. So Krishna talked about two things. One thing is that he said he sent for demigods and human beings, and he asked demigods and human beings to cooperate with each other. Okay, we are going to look into it, how we cooperate with the demigods. But before that, he's also telling you one more thing. He's telling that on a daily basis, on a practical level, do something very simple. Whenever you desire to eat something, just offer it to God and then eat it. Offer it to Krishna and then accept it as remnants. Why? Because he says, Yajna sishtasina santo muchyante sarvakil bishai bunjate te tvam agama papa ye pachantyatma karanat. 13th verse, the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is first offered in sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Simple form of sacrifice that can be done on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Now coming to the cycle of sacrifice, we spoke about demigods and how human beings are cooperating with each other, right? How does this entire cycle of sacrifice unfold? A simple activity of eating, right? Eating and then removing sins. Eating food that is sanctified, that is offered to Krishna, and removing sins. How does that cycle work? So he explains the cycle very beautifully in these verses 14 to 15. He says, there is the Supreme Lord who's called as Akshara. Akshara means one who never diminishes. Okay, something that doesn't diminish is called as Akshara. Akshara means to reduce. Akshara is someone who never reduces. So the Supreme Lord, he gave the Vedas to the mouth of Brahma, and that Vedas is also called as Shabda Brahman. Okay, it is the Supreme Lord's words in the form, and it is called in the form of words, Supreme Lord's words, and which is the absolute, you can say, Shabda Brahman. And then in these Vedas, there are prescribed codes of action that is embedded in it. And what do these codes of action talk about? They talk about sacrifice, doing yajna. So when you do certain yajnas, you must have seen in ancient times, there would be sages sitting around a sacrificial pit, pouring ghee into the fire, and then performing sacrifice to different demigods. So when these people are performing sacrifice to these demigods, the demigods get pleased, and then they come and they accept their share of sacrifice. Being pleased with the human beings, what they do is they shower rains. How do they shower rains? We all know rains come from clouds. But then we should also understand that you need a superior power to actually get these clouds moving. Who's controlling everything? There are different demigods who are in charge of different elements in nature, like rain, water, fire, air, ether. Everything has a presiding deity. So these demigods, we have to cooperate with them because we want something. We want water, we want fire, we want things for ourselves, right? We want to use the elements of nature. So we cooperate with them. We cooperate with them by doing certain sacrifices. They become pleased and they shower rains. So what happens when they shower rains? There are crops that are grown on the soil, and the crops get water and they grow and they produce what is called as grains. And what is grains? Grains is anna. If you eat grains, you will get sustained. All living entities depend on grains for their survival. We all depend on different kinds of grains for our survival. Carbs is energy, so we need energy. And by eating this, what we do is, we don't directly eat it. Now here is the fill in the blank that was there from the previous slide. So Krishna said, don't eat your food directly. What should you do? You should offer it to Krishna and then eat it. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they're eating food that is first offered in sacrifice. So you offer that bhoga to the Supreme Lord because he is the one who is the source of this entire cycle, right? When you offer this food to Krishna, then you're completing the cycle. Then when you eat it, the cycle is complete. But if you break that cycle in between and just eat for your own enjoyment, then it is sin. So very nicely, Krishna, he gives this entire cycle of sacrifice, and it's there in verses 14 and 15. I'll quickly read these verses. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in the acts of sacrifice. Okay, so simple cycle and simple yajna that everyone can do is offering whatever you cook with love and devotion and accepting it as remnants. And you will complete that cycle. You'll not be indebted anymore. And you can actually pretty much control this karma. It's very hard to control, but you can control it. Okay. Another thing, what you can do in this age of Kali, which is so hard in this time and age, nobody can start a sacrificial pit and start offering all this and do it on a regular basis. It's very, very hard. So the simplest formula in the age of Kali is the topmost yajna. In fact, Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita says, among all the yajnas, I am japa yajna. The art of chanting. Chanting itself is a yajna. And what should you chant? You should chant the mantra that is meant for the age of Kali. And what is the mantra that is meant for the age of Kali? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This 16-syllable mantra will go a long way. So just chant this mantra begin to offer bhoga, and you're taking care of the cycle. Okay? Now, the next section is verses 17 to 35, which is E for exemplary. So Krishna said, it's okay even if you have desires. That's what he said, right, previously. But you continue to work, but work on a regulated fashion. So with the desire, maintain your desire, but work in a regulated way. Now, most of us fall under this section where we are trying to regulate our senses and we are trying to work in a way, but still we have desires. But then there are some people who do not have these desires, okay? They are not really implicated like us. They don't have that many desires. They don't maintain those underlying desires and all that. But then should they work or should they not work? Because they don't have desires. Why should they work, right? But Krishna says even they should work. Okay? Krishna doesn't let us take sannyas very easily. So he says, even they should also work. Why should they work? They don't have desires. Why should they work? They should work because they have to set an example. When you see a good example in front of you, automatically what will you do? You will follow. So that's where he comes to this verse. Yadyat acharati shreshtas tattat evetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokas tattanuvartate. Verse 21. Whatever action a great man performs, common men will follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And look at the picture. Here is the boss. Everyone has seen this scene, right? The boss sits there on his throne and he dictates orders and everyone is working very, very hard. He doesn't do anything. He just gives orders. So is he a good example? No. But there are some leaders we see from time to time. They not only give you guidance as to how you should execute an action, but they stand in front and they show you how to do it and they get involved with you. They come to your level and then they show by action. I mean, they show by example, and everyone desires to follow such a leader, right? We all are inspired by such leaders. We are not inspired by this boss who's sitting on the chair and giving us instructions. We like to work with a person who comes down to our level and who acts along with us. These are the kind of people that we like to work with. So such a person is actually a good leader. Krishna says, whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts. Krishna doesn't say he just gives orders and you all follow. No, he sets an example, and seeing the example that he's setting, the entire world pursues. So a person who doesn't have these desires also should continue to work. Because why? Because he can set a good example and people can follow him. Classic example, Krishna himself gives. Krishna himself, right there, he gives example of two personalities. The first personality he talks about in the Bhagavad Gita is Janaka Maharaja. Okay. Now it's interesting that in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has not praised anyone else other than Janaka Maharaja. So you can go through all the pages of Bhagavad Gita and see one example. He said this person is exemplary. From Krishna's mouth it's come. This person is exemplary, and that is Janaka Maharaja. Now this Janaka Maharaj, he's an interesting personality. He was a great king. He was very successful. He was doing his karma. He was doing his duty as a Kshatriya. According to his Varna and Ashram, he was doing his duties. Interestingly, he was very renounced because he didn't have any much desires. There's a story, quickly I'll tell that. There's a story of Janaka Maharaj. Janaka Maharaj was actually listening to a nice discourse from a sage called as Yajnavalkya. And Yajnavalkya was giving he would always reserve his first row for Janaka Maharaj so that this Kshatriya king could come and be seated and then he would start his discourse. Many of the disciples of Yajnavalkya were actually very put off because they were thinking, we are all great renunciants, we are all great sages, and we live in the forest. And why is our spiritual master always focused on Janaka? Janaka is after all a king. He's just a Kshatriya. He's just got all these mundane duties. Why so much focus on this Janaka? So Yajnavalkya, just to teach them a lesson once with his mystic power, he created a scene, okay? It was a mystical scene, not a real scene, but he created a scene wherein the entire palace of Janaka was actually burning. He created this in front of Janaka's eyes. And looking at the situation, he also made a person come running to Janaka and tell Janaka, oh, my dear king, your palace is on fire and it's better that you go and take necessary measures. Go and save your palace, go and save your things. But then Janaka looked at this messenger and he told him, I'll give you instructions as to how to curtail the fire. Take care of things, but then I'm busy. I'm listening to some spiritual discourse. So let me first finish this, and I know this fire can be taken care of. He was not at all attached. Whereas the disciples who were there, the fire was not even hitting the forest yet. Still, they ran away to their little ashramas just to make sure that their little loincloth was saved. Their kamandalu and loincloth, that's all the possession they had. But they were so attached to that. They were so attached to that little possession. Whereas Janaka, he was the king. He had his entire palace. And he just said, okay, just do this, do that, and things will be taken care of. I have better things to do here. His attention was so focused on the topics about the Supreme Lord. So this was Janaka, and then Yajnavalkya, he just showed this is what the king is, and that's the reason I give him so much importance. And of course, then the disciples understood the real character of Janaka Maharaj. The other example that Krishna gives us himself, he says, even I have to perform work. If I stop performing work, then the whole world will be in chaos. Oftentimes, at least in ancient times, it was said that the king is beyond the law. Today, you can't say it, but in ancient times, the lawmaker was above the law. He is above the law. So Krishna, he's the creator. He's the creator of law. All the laws and the codes and the karmas and everything that you have in this world is created by Krishna. He's certainly above the law, but he practices. When he came as Krishna, he went to school. Look at that. He's with his Guru Sandipani Muni and there is Balram. Both of them, they went to school. Does Krishna have to go to school? No, he knows everything, but he went to school. Why? So that he can set an example. So this is how Krishna talks about examples of people who set an example. Okay, so what do we learn from this portion? How to be a leader? To be a leader, first you must walk your talk. There's no point just talking. I mean, talking, but not walking the talk. And this is very common. We see parents, we love to give advice to our little ones. Oh, you should not shout. You should use a soft voice. You should be calm. You should be good. But then what do? We keep screaming at each other, right? So are we setting a good example? No. There is another picture here of a sannyasi who's actually thinking about sweets. Okay, this is an interesting story. There was a mother who had a diabetic child. So she went to a sannyasi and she asked that sannyasi, my dear Swamiji, please make sure and advise my son that he should not eat sweets because he's eating too much sweets and it's not good for his health. So Swamiji was a good Swamiji. He said, okay, mother, can you come after 3 days? She was like, what is there? He just has to say a statement, boy, don't eat sweets. But why does he need 3 days for that? She was very confused. She left. She came back after 3 days with her son. And then she looked at the Swamiji. The Swamiji looked at the boy and said, my dear boy, stop eating sweets. Okay. Then the boy immediately started listening. Immediately that day he gave up sweets. So the mother was very surprised and she went and asked the Swamiji, what did you do? Why didn't you tell the statement 3 days before? You could have said this 3 days before and the last 3 days he would have refrained from eating sweets. But then he said very nicely, till 3 days before, even I was eating sweets. I would always think about sweets. So if I tell don't eat sweets, you think I'm setting a good example until I practice it? So only after I could practice it for a while, I could actually give this advice. So very, very logical. And that's how a good leader is. Now, what about the followers, right? Leader good, very nice. What about the followers? Do we imitate or do we follow? A follower should follow, not imitate. There are some people who smoke ganja in the name of Lord Shiva. Oh, the great yogi, and then they smoke ganja. Are they imitating or are they following? They are trying to imitate without the proper purification. Great Ishwaras, great controllers can do anything, okay? But ordinary living beings, if we try to imitate, we'll only be doomed. Lord Shiva can drink poison. So in the name of imitating Lord Shiva, will you also drink poison? No, right? You cannot do that. The other example is Lord Krishna. People, they maintain many relationships, many illicit relationships, and they say, oh, Krishna also did that. Oh, Krishna danced with the gopis. Who is Krishna? He's the Supreme Lord in everyone's heart. And he's the Supreme Lord in the gopis' heart. He's the Supreme Lord in the husbands of the gopis' hearts. He can do anything. He can lift Govardhan Hill. Last class, again, we spoke about the Govardhan Hill. He lifted the Govardhan Hill with his little finger. The left hand of the little finger, supposed to be the weakest part of your body, So he lifted the Govardhan Hill. Can you lift the Govardhan Hill? No, right? So all that we need to do is take inspiration and try to follow in their footsteps, but not randomly imitate without the proper qualification or purification. So we're going to touch again the rungs of the yoga ladder quickly, because now we have seen a lot of information. So first, there is the lowest rung, which is animal life, which is absolutely no regulation. Then there is karma kanda, some sort of a regulation, but still I'm doing my activities without a spiritual pursuit, okay? I'm doing my activities so that I can get a lot of gain, materialistic happiness. That is karma kanda. The next level is, and I have a spiritual goal in mind. My final aim is to, develop something nice and have a spiritual goal, but I still have some desires maintained. Like most of us, we have some underlying desires. This is called as Sakama Karma Yoga. And then the next level is people like, people who are completely free from these desires, like we saw Janaka Maharaja and other cases, right? So they're completely free from desires and they are just working to show as an example. This is called as Nishkama Karma Yoga. So up to this point in the yoga ladder, this chapter has discussed, okay? Now, a classic example of a person who went from Sakama to Nishkama Karma Yoga is Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj, a story of a little boy who was 5-year-old and he was not allowed to sit on the lap of his father. So his stepmother actually didn't permit him to sit on the lap of his father. And he got very angry. And he said, I'm going to come back with a kingdom that is greater than my great-grandfather. And his great-grandfather apparently was Lord Brahma. Okay, so he wanted to get a kingdom that is greater than Lord Brahma. And he went away. And he went away to the forest. And his mom told him that you go and meditate on Lord Vishnu. He's the only one who can satisfy all your desires. So initially he came with a desire. But as he meditated, there was tremendous purification. And when he saw the Lord face to face, he didn't desire for anything at all. He said, oh my Lord, I've seen you. I was looking after broken pieces of glass, but I have a diamond in front of me. So this is how Dhruva Maharaj's life transformed. Okay, so we saw about attached and we saw about detached. The detached people, the Nishkama Karma Yogis, they act, they have to act because they set an example. They never disturb the ignorant, but they try to inspire them. And they know how to they know the fact that they are separate from the senses and the sense objects. Okay, they are not controlled by the senses or the sense objects, and they work in devotion. That is how they work. The attached people, they are very attached to results. If I do something, I have to get the result. Many of us are like that, right? We are always result driven. We want to see the result. So we are very attached to results. Now, why are we so attached to results? Why is this nature there in the first place? Krishna answers that right there. He says, Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartam iti manyate. Why do I have to always think I am the doer, I am the enjoyer? Why is this innate quality there in my heart? Why? Krishna, he gives the answer. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried by the three modes of material nature. You are thinking you are the doer, you are the doer. No, 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 you're not the only doer. You know what's happening? For an action to be performed, there are multiple things that is interacting. The modes of material nature is involved. You as the soul, you're also involved. The super soul is involved. The very endeavor that is needed to perform an action is involved. The senses are involved. And overall, the time factor that is governing this entire world, that is also involved. And you're thinking, I am the doer, I am the doer, I am the doer. Yes, you are responsible for performing the action, but don't think that the action is just performed by you. There are so many things going on. And why am I thinking like that? I'm thinking like that because of this false ego. This false ego, you know what is the definition of false ego? Bodily identification. That is only false ego. I identify so much with my body that I think I'm everything. That's how the false ego is actually defined. Okay, so Krishna says it's not just you, it's actually a combination of so many things. So please don't think that you are the ultimate controller, don't think you're the proprietor, and don't think, you have to enjoy everything. Okay, and Krishna says, but what is the solution? Maya sarvani karmani, do your duty depending on me without desire for proprietorship. And very easily said than done, right? Krishna can say that and go, but we can't do it. Practically, how do we understand it? We understand it with two examples, very simple examples. There's a cashier here, it's a bank, there's a cashier. She's counting money day in and day out. Can she say that, oh, I'm counting this money, this is for me, and she puts it in her pocket? She can't do that. She'll lose her job and she'll be sued and whatnot. So a cashier's job is just to count, but she cannot claim a penny. And you see a builder here, he's building a building. Can he say, I built this? Technically, he only built it, but he cannot say, I own it. Someone else will say, the owner who's given money for it will see this. See, I built my new house. how ironical, right? So a person who's building cannot claim that I did this, right? So like that, Krishna says that just do your duty with a consciousness, with a dependence on me. Depend on me for all that you do without unnecessary desire for proprietorship. And when you do like this, everything will be perfect. Your actions will be perfect. So Now we spoke about how we have this constant sense of I am the doer, it's all me, we have this, right? So this deep-rooted conditioning that is there in our heart, it's there from several births, it's there for eons and eons. So this deep-rooted conditioning that we have actually even prevents us from wanting to work with a dependence on Krishna. We don't want to be dependent on anyone, right? That's the law of the world today. We don't want to be dependent on anyone. We don't even want to be dependent on Krishna. We don't want to give the fruits of our activities to Krishna. Why? Because we have that conditioning. We are like that, for several births. But if we keep doing this, we have to bear repercussions. We have to face the law of karma, and it's very, very difficult. So Krishna says, you have this raga and dvesha. Raga is intense attachment and dvesha is intense hatred. Try to bring it under control. If you bring it under control and try to depend on me, everything will be all right. So he looks at Arjuna and he tells Arjuna, okay, so you have to do what is meant for you and you better fight. Now Arjuna was thinking, what is this? I mean, it's very, very hard, right? It's very, very hard. Why can't I just take sannyas and just get rid of this karma and this activity and this duty? Isn't it easy to just take sannyas and go away? Krishna says, no, don't do that. Do only what is meant for you. And he says this very beautiful verse. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is very dangerous. So, my dear Arjuna, you cannot be a sannyasi. You are trained and you are custom made to be a Kshatriya. Okay, that is your nature, that is your innate nature, that is the quality you've been carrying. That is what you are. If you take sannyas and go to the forest, you're not going to be a successful sannyasi. You're just going to go and disturb the other sannyasis in the forest. You're going to show your Kshatriya qualities and you're going to just pick up quarrels there and you will be a hyper sannyasi. This is what Krishna says. Krishna says you're going to be a big failure. Just do what you are meant to do. You're a Kshatriya, fight. Don't try to be a sannyasi because it's going to be a big failure. Even if you don't do your prescribed duties perfectly, even if you fail in the war, it's still okay. People will applaud you for whatever you're doing. But if you run away and become a sannyasi, that is no good. So the last section is 36 to 43. Enemy of the soul. E for enemy of the soul. This last but one section. Yeah. No, this is the last section. E, enemy of the soul. So Arjuna, he was told, okay, I should not take sannyas. I should be here. I should perform my duty. And I have this, I have so many complications in my heart. I have raga, I have dvesha, all this. And I act in all sorts of ways. So Arjuna was asking Krishna, Krishna, tell me, what is this force, that is forcing me to act in certain ways, though I do want to do it. Sometimes, you all have seen this. You don't want to do something, but rashly, your nature is that you end up doing it. So when Arjuna asked this excellent question, Krishna said, Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samadbhava. Lust and anger is the one that instigates one to commit sin. We have lust and anger. These are the greatest enemies. If at all we are committing sins, if at all we are committing wrong actions, it is because of lust and sin. It is because of, it is because of lust, right? Lust. Now, why do I have lust? Why do I have lust? Lust means what? Lust means intense desire for something. That is lust, okay? Intense desire. It can also mean lust in the common way. We all know lust as like love, lust, that kind of lust also. It can also mean intensely wanting something for the senses. That is also lust. This lust is there because it is a misuse of our free will. We all have free will. Free will is there in human beings. That's why we act in certain ways. We have a tiny bit of free will and we try to and we end up misusing that free will. And that is seen in various ways, like we misuse all that we have, we become very lusty, and then we end up in problems. Like a classic example is Ravana. Ravana, it was just a misuse of free will. He was very lusty and he got into a lot of trouble. So classic example of lust is Ravana. So think about him. This lust is very hard to curb. Actually, that is the greatest enemy of the soul. Lust is the greatest enemy. If I have an itch on my skin and I keep scratching it, I'm going to convert it into a skin infection, I'm not helping it, right? So if you have an itch, if you have some lust, don't feed it, don't keep working on it, don't work on it, rather just tolerate and let it go away. Now, it's like pouring oil in fire. Feeding this lust is like pouring oil in fire. Just because I have some lust, if I keep feeding it over and over, it's like doing this kaboom here that you see in the picture. Everything just lasts. So all that you need to do is don't misuse your free will and try to tolerate these temptations. Try to control kama and krodha, anger and lust. If you control anger and lust, things will be much better for you. And this lust is very complicated. But at the same time, being human beings, for us, it is still easier to conquer lust than the lower creatures. It is easier to conquer lust than animals or birds or trees. Okay, and Krishna gives these beautiful analogies in the Bhagavad Gita. So beautiful it is. Krishna says, the fire, though covered by smoke, still burns to some degree. Similarly, a human being is covered by lust, but he's slightly covered by lust, and he can easily conquer it by bhakti and by suitable guidance. So if you take to the process of devotional service, as human beings, we have this great gift. You can take to the process of bhakti or devotional service under suitable guidance, and you can easily conquer this lust. Because this lust is actually a slight covering, like what? Like smoke that is there over fire. Okay, the fire is still burning. That's why there is smoke, right? So like that, the covering of lust is actually easier for us to conquer. However, for other birds and beasts, okay, their lust is at a different level. The mirror covered by dust does not reflect images properly, though it is known as a mirror. Similarly, birds and beasts who are covered by lust, they are covered moderately. They are covered to a higher degree than us. And then the final analogy he gives is for trees or immovable living entities. He says, just like how the fetus is covered by the womb and cannot even move, similarly, the consciousness of trees is covered very deeply. So you have this little table here, object, what it is covered by, compared to the consciousness of whom, degree of lust and chance of overcoming. So if you see this table, who has the maximum chance of overcoming? We human beings. How? Why? Though we have lust, still we have this gift of bhakti, and we can get guidance in the path of bhakti. So it becomes easy to conquer this lust. Lust is the greatest enemy. Anger is the greatest enemy. Still, it can be conquered. That is the good news. And where is it sitting? I mean, I'm saying lust. Can I see it? Is it here? Is it here? Krishna says the lust has its 3 different sitting places: mind, intelligence, and senses. So if you just think about lust or something you intensely hanker for, think from where these desires come from. It can come from the mind, it can come from the intelligence, or it can just come with the senses coming in touch with the sense objects. Okay, so these are the 3 sitting places of lust. And of course, we said bhakti is a way of conquering the lust, but it can be started by regulating the senses. See, you see, everything will come together. Regulating senses, bhakti, everything is going to intertwine and come together. The soul itself is greater than the intelligence. The intelligence is greater than the mind is greater than the senses, and the senses is greater than the objects of the senses or matter. Okay, so what we need to do is try to control the senses. Try to control the senses. Don't act on the senses. Try to control on the senses, and eventually everything else will become controlled. And that's why, the greatest sense that is very difficult to control is the tongue. At least for me, it's extremely difficult. So how do I control the tongue? What I need to do is, whatever I cook, I offer it to Krishna, I offer it to God, and I take it as a remnants. By doing that, my senses, slowly I can bring it under control. When my senses, which is greater than matter, is brought under control, then the mind, intelligence, and soul can fall in place. So, classic example of mind control is if you can acquire spiritual knowledge that is guided by the right intelligence. So for that, you can study the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the manual for life. Every machine that you own in the house, your bread machine or your grinder or mixer or whatever you have in the house, comes with a little manual, right? So like that, the manual for life is Bhagavad Gita. So our mind and intelligence can be easily brought under control by studying the Bhagavad Gita, our senses, our mind, intelligence. So what is all this? Eating prasadam, studying the Bhagavad Gita, chanting, there are chanting beads here, chanting the holy names, all this is bhakti, all this is devotional service. So like this, we can gather a lot of spiritual strength and we can easily conquer lust. And just reminder of the chariot analogy, you have seen this in the first session. So the horses are like the senses, and the reins are like the mind. The reins are pulled. The reins are like the mind. The passenger is the soul. The chariot is the body. Krishna is the witness, the super soul, and the charioteer is the intelligence. So everything is interconnected. So all of this you're bringing under control by a very simple process. Extremely easy to bring it under control if we follow the simple process of reading Bhagavad Gita as much as we can, trying to chant the holy names, which is the greatest yajna, and eating nice sanctified prasadam, then all these forces can come under control. So, summary of what we have seen today. Arjuna had a confusion. That's how he started this chapter. Should I renounce or should I act? Krishna said, Nishkama Karma Yoga is better for you, Arjuna. Don't try to take sannyas. You'll be a flop sannyasi. Then he gave the yoga ladder description and he told about animal life, karma kanda, then sakama karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga. He spoke about all this, how to do karma yoga successfully. Then Arjuna still had a problem. He said, yeah, I'll act, but then I have this problem of sometimes I'm forcibly doing certain things which is not in my control. So Krishna says that is lust and anger. And how do you control lust? Simply engage in devotional service. So after he said that, he told Arjuna, you better act. So the message in this entire chapter is, we must act. We should be in this world, but we should not be of the world, like the Bible says. The Bible also says the same thing. Says, be in this world, but not of it. So don't get too entangled, but act in a way that you're able to give those fruits of results to the Lord, and everything will fall in place. Okay? So this is the gist of Karma Yoga. I hope I was on time. Thank you. So what we'll do is first we'll take questions. Okay, first we'll take questions and comments after the questions. You can text if you're shy. If you want to unmute and speak, you can unmute and speak. But until we ask questions, we won't get anywhere. So it's always nice if we can have lots of questions and lots of discussion. And if I cannot answer, of course, I will defer it to others on the call who know the answers. So please, please ask questions and I'll be very happy to answer. Okay. If you don't have questions, if you have some realizations, you can type that or you can unmute and speak. Either way is fine. Okay. Okay, let me open up the chat box in full. We have a very silent audience. Did I put you all to sleep? Okay.
Hare Krishna Preethi, Danvat Pranams. Such a beautiful class. I have one question.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like you mentioned the Prakriti Kriyamanani verse, that, we are not the doers, but, it's the three modes of material nature. So how do we understand that? I mean, because as a soul, we desire, right? So how can we say that it's the modes of nature which are actually making us do things? So can you please explain?
Yes. Very good question. So let me first, for the benefit of the audience, let me first define the three modes of material nature, which I didn't define. So the three modes of material nature is goodness, passion, and ignorance. All of us are ruled by the three modes of material nature. And by a combination of these three modes of material nature, different actions are performed, okay? Just like you have the three primary colors. You mix the three primary colors, many colors come forth, right? Like that, just with these three qualities, so many other actions are set forth, they just come out, different kinds of actions come out. Some can be in the mode of passion, some can be in the mode of goodness, some can be in the mode of ignorance, and it can be a mixture of many, okay, different combinations, like a palette of colors. So the three modes of material nature are acting, meaning As a soul, yes, definitely, as you said, I am desiring. That is the first thing, I am desiring. But then there is the influence of the mode in which you are. For an action to be performed, okay, for an action to be successfully performed, it's not just my desire that ends up the action. You need the body, you need the senses, the eternal time factor is acting on you. If the time is suitable, it will happen, it might not happen. The super soul is witnessing and he's sanctioning. If the super soul doesn't sanction, even a blade of grass cannot move. So many factors are involved for an action to be complete. Okay, the desire is me, but then there is this immediate medium of the modes of material nature that is actually executing the action. So that's why Krishna is telling, don't think that you're the doer, but remember there are other factors also. So that's how he's explaining this. Okay. Yeah, and actually in the further chapters, we'll understand about these different interactions and how an action is successfully performed by the interaction of all these different 4 or 5 factors that I mentioned. That will come in the future chapters, okay? How they act.
Thank you so much, Preeti. That was so beautiful explanation. I really appreciate that. And the examples you gave in the class, they were very, very beautiful. And the slides also very classy. And I really like how you explain Markata Vairagya. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So
yes.
you gave a couple of examples, like, like to perform a good services, we can keep gadgets, right? Like we can have laptop, multiple things. But how do you like explain that? Like suppose if we start keeping gadgets, don't we, start be attached towards it? If like suppose if you buy one iPhone, don't you think, okay, let's buy some more accessories to it, and
yeah. What are you using that accessory for? So how you use it is the point, not the accessory itself, right? So if you're getting too attached to it, are you getting too attached because this cell phone is my possession, or I can use it in a nice way so that something nice, some service can be done through this. So it's about the shift in consciousness rather than the object itself.
okay, so do you mean to say that, like, okay, we can keep all those things, those are not bad, that means, right? We can keep the material.
Don't get too attached to it. Like, if my phone breaks today, then I should not have an emotional breakdown. Oh, I lost my phone and everything is gone, right? So if I'm having that, if I'm having excessive attachment to the object itself, then it is a problem. Then I'm not renounced.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mataji. That makes sense.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I have one quick question.
Yes.
Arjuna instructs Krishna instructs Arjuna saying that you should follow the prescribed duties, even though if it is a faulty, than the going to the other and doing the right thing, right? Does that implies even prescribed even for this yuga? Even during now?
Okay.
That's my question.
Yeah, a practical question. That is right. Even I would often think about it. So in this time and age, if you're trained to be a doctor, if you're not trained to be a doctor, if you're trained to be an engineer, you cannot run into a hospital and say, I'm going to do surgery. So on a practical level, we have to see this. You're trained for this job, so do your job. But if you cannot just get into the surgery room and say, my father is a doctor, so I'm going to do a surgery. That won't work, right? So it's like that. In a practical level, you can take it like that. Okay.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are a few questions in chat, if you can take up.
Yes, sure. Yeah, let me open. Hare Krishna Mataji, I have one question. How do we identify the fake people? Because in this world, material world, it becomes difficult to know who's who, right? Very good question. Excellent. Yeah, how do we understand who's fake? See what he practices, what he speaks. Okay, if a person is, first and foremost thing, if someone says I'm God, you cannot believe him, because to be God, you've got to do a lot more than what they are actually doing. The definition of God, Bhagavan, is what we saw in the first session, right? Bhagavan. Second session, yeah, we saw who is Bhagavan, one who is all beautiful, all powerful. He's got all the qualities, all renounced and everything. He's got everything. The people that we see, all strength, all fame, yeah, there is a big list of who Bhagavan is. But the people who we see in this world, they are not even, simple thing. They're not even beautiful. Okay, they're not even good looking. This is the simplest way you can make out. Okay, even if they are good looking, they could be good looking just to a few. But Krishna, when he came, he was all attractive. He was good looking. He was intelligent. He was everything that is possible, that is mentioned. So anyone who says he's God, first thing is you cannot believe. Now, how do I believe a person is a real practitioner, a spiritual practitioner, is if he repeats the word of God. If a person genuinely repeats the word of God without any distortion, without any motivated distortions, they have some external motivations and they're trying to change something, then there is a problem. See if they are repeating the words of God as it is received in the disciplic succession. So the first thing is we have to open our ears, our eyes, and observe. We have to observe very carefully and see their actions, their walk, their talk. Until we do this with intelligence, we will never, we'll never get into the right person. Now, the reason why we get cheated so easily is because we all want instant gratification. That's the reason we are running into so many fake sannyasis. We all, if you do this, the sannyasi said, if you do this, I will get this much money. Or if I chant this mantra, I'm going to get this. If I do this, my disease will get cured. If I put this vibhuti, immediately I will get power. So we are after all this. We are after power. We are after fame. We are after money. We are after all this. It's not bad to be after all this. But a person who says that I will solve these problems is not a guru. That is the thing. A guru or an acharya is one who gives you spiritual knowledge, one who speaks the word of God and gives you knowledge about God. If he's solving your material problems, then he is only a counselor. He's only a psychiatrist. Okay? So that's how we analyze. We analyze with logic. We keep our eyes and our ears open and we observe him very carefully and then understand who a real spiritualist. So first thing, that person should not even let his followers call him God. That is the first thing that you should look out for. Okay, and then all are one. I am God, you are God, we all become God. No, he's not a genuine guru. Okay, there are so many ways actually. Like for example, if a person is to be an incarnation, that person's name should be revealed in the scriptures. He should be carrying the marks of the Lord. He should be doing certain activities which no human being can do. But today, little mystic perfections if someone shows, if someone can manifest something, if someone can do a little bit of magic, we think, wow, you're great, you must be God. But these are called as mystic perfections. Anybody, even you, can attain mystic perfections. So we should be very careful. They are all trying to practice different kinds of yogas. Yes, you can be at a distance and appreciate them, but we should not get too involved with them. A real guru is one who just speaks what God has said and he makes everyone a devotee. That person is a real God, is a real guru, sorry, real guru. Yeah. Was that satisfying or you want some more answers, Mataji?
No, thank you, Mataji. It was helpful.
Thank you. Sneha, then Hare Krishna. I am completely new for Bhagavad Gita. While hearing, I get distracted very fast. Can you tell me how I can control and be more into it while hearing? Yes, we all have that problem. While hearing, I get distracted. Yes, we all have this problem. We all have a very short attention span, but it can be resolved very nicely if we continue to hear. That is the solution. You have to keep hearing, especially spiritual topics. The more you hear, you specifically wrote Bhagavat. That is so nice. Bhagavatam is one scripture that if you keep hearing, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita is different from the Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is the song of God. It's philosophical. And we are discussing it. Bhagavatam is all about the pastimes of God, what all he did. And, it's filled with beautiful nectarian katha. So definitely when we are hearing the Bhagavatam, it becomes easy for us to actually give our attention. So the more we hear, the more our ears get tuned to that listening. It's a practice, but eventually we'll get into it. Yes, distractions happen. Everybody gets distracted, but then try to keep doing it. And within a few months, you'll be an expert listener. So, and also another thing is try to listen to people. Sometimes we listen to so many people, that is very good. But sometimes when we listen to certain people, it just goes into our heart, right? So try to listen more to those people so that you can develop the practice of hearing better. And as you practice, hearing will become easy. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shreya.
Vilasini Mataji.
Yeah. Hari Bol Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Very simple way, and from bottom of your heart you explain so nicely. I know that you are training our Vinita Gandharvi, then Padma Sakhi, and all Mataji you are saying backside. You and Chikitida Sundari Mataji, Lalitangi Mataji. This is the quality of Vaishnava. I learned in a Gurudev lecture that they are always staying backside and they are making new Vaishnava, encouraging new Vaishnava to become a more and more spread Bhagavad Gita, Shri Bhagavad Gita, Shri Bhagavatam, Shri Chaitanya Charanamrut. So much knowledge you all have, but you will come in our level and teach us. That is the quality, Mataji. You explain so nicely about, I'll take only 2 minutes, Mataji. Markat Vairagya, Paltu Vairagya. That a monkey has looked like a renunciation, but he is satisfies sense gratification with so many female monkeys. Then you gave such a nice example of Yukta Vairagya. Then earth, water, fire, that 5 elements. Then you give us such a nice example of Janaka Maharaja, Mataji. It's touched to heart that Rishi Muni is going to save their hearts, but Janaka Maharaj is just given a little instruction and his conscience is total in the lotus feet of Shri Radha Gopinath. And then then you give us such a nice example of Niskam Karma, Sakam Karma, Karma Kanda, then Dhruv Maharaj, then detachment. We have to do our duty, whether it's a grahastha, whether it's in a grahastha life, a student, or as a grahastha, or as a student, or as a given example of that king knife, please forgive me, Dr. Knife. And then you give an example of detachment and never disturbed by these material small things, Mataji. It's our past birth karma. Our conscious should be in the lotus feet of Shri Radha Gopinath and hearing, then it's directly effect to our japa. And you given us such a nice example of builders and that cashier. And
thank you so much, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please forgive me, Mataji, for explaining all this thing, but I'm so excited. Koti Dandavat Pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Shri Radha Gopinath.
For your blessings and for your association. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mataji. We have one more question, Mataji. One more question from Shreyas. Shreyas is asking, I have a question. We should not think that we are the doers alone. There are several other causes of action. Why is Lord Krishna sanctioning bad acts that people would like to perform? So Shreyas, actually, the point is that we mentioned about free will. We all have a fraction of a very small, minute quantity of free will in our heart. And we have the right to execute our free will. Okay. Krishna, as the super soul in the heart, is only witnessing and sanctioning, but he does not interfere. He does not interfere with any of the actions that we are performing. Now, the question that you're specifically asking is, why is even Krishna sanctioning it, right? Why is he even letting you to do? Because Krishna doesn't want to be a dictator. I'll tell you something. When you really love a person, you love that person. When do you love that person? If you have complete freedom with that person, that is when you will love that person. If that person is always controlling and always dictating and trying to, put a hold on all that we are doing, love will not be natural, right? We will not have natural love. Krishna as God, as the creator, he wants each one of us to love him. He just doesn't want us to say, oh, you're the boss, I respect you, my dandavats, you are God, I surrender. No, he doesn't want that. He's the all-loving, all-compassionate God. He wants to have a free relationship with you. And when is that relationship nice and very healthy? It is healthy when the other person is not overpowering. So that's why Krishna, for any action you do, he's only a sanctioner, and he gives you free will. If you don't have free will, if you're like a robot, okay, if you're like a robot in front of God, God says do this, you just go pick up, do it, then where is the question of love? Is there any love for robots? No. Krishna wants to have a healthy relationship. Okay, that's why he gives you free will in the first place. You can act the way you want. Without free will, there is no love. And without love, God doesn't want you. He wants you to love him. He wants to love you. Okay, that's why he remains a sanctioner. He will not interfere. And because we can exercise our free will. If we cannot exercise our free will, then we are no better than robots. Okay, so that's the answer, Shreyas. And thank you, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, again. Thank you for your very kind words and the entire summary of this chapter. Thank you, Mataji. I think there's one more question. Is that okay? Hare Krishna, Shreyas. Yeah, Shreyas was the one. Okay, that's all. Did I miss anyone? I hope I covered everybody because I couldn't scroll quickly.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Lakshmi Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. It was such a wonderful class. I have two questions, Mataji, a little bit clarification on that. Mataji, you mentioned like never imitate, just follow. And so the question is, why do they choose to imitate and not follow? Because actually they are the disciples of the God. Maybe Lord Shiva devotee, or there are Krishna devotees who sing and talk even Bhagavad Gita, but they sometimes imitate. So after knowing the God and following it, why do they choose to imitate and not follow?
Yeah, because they want to become that, right? So that is the biggest problem that we have. The greatest, it's said that the last snare of Maya is the desire to become God. Everyone has it in a very subtle way. Okay, I want to be great. I want to be noted. I want to be that. If that is great, then I want to be that. So this is the very nature of the false ego. Like we saw that Falgu Vairagya when we were explaining that, that is the most subtle thing. It's the most subtle thing and the most dangerous thing. Because of this only we want to imitate. We want to be like that. Just like in Krishna, when Krishna was here in this world, when he was performing pastimes in Dwaraka, there was one character called as Paundraka Vasudeva. So this Paundraka Vasudeva, he wanted to imitate. He was so fascinated by Krishna, and he saw, wow, Krishna is getting all the respect and Krishna is celebrated by everybody. Krishna, they are telling Krishna is God. Oh, that means God is a person who has this, Shankha Chakra, Srivatsa and all this. So let me imitate. Let me make fake Shankha Chakra. Let me have a fake Srivatsa market, a fake Kaustubha jewel, and let me go around telling my followers that I am Vasudeva Krishna. He went around doing that. His name was Paundraka Vasudeva. So his original name was, he was from that Paundraka. His name was Paundraka. And he called himself Vasudeva. He said, I am Vasudeva. This is not today. It is there forever. When Krishna was there on the planet, it was there. And he made all the fun. These dumb followers, they were encouraging him and they were telling more and more that you are the original. That Krishna is the fake. So it is very deep-rooted. It is very subtle in the heart. And that is the reason why we want to imitate, because we want to be great. Greater than the person whom we are talking is great. We want to supersede them also. Yes, Mataji. It takes a lot to be humble, Mataji. It's not easy. Actually, it's not easy to be humble. It takes a lot. Yeah, it's easy. To an extent, it's easy to be humble in front of God, but it is extremely humble. It's extremely difficult to be humble in front of genuine devotees. It's very difficult. So like that. But even to be humble in front of God is very hard. Okay, Lakshmi Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. So they understand about the God, they know about the God, and as they know the greatness of the God, they want to become that greatness. But the point is, Mataji, they are still, when you know about God and when they're reading all these scriptures, it has to purify them, right? So, so what is lacking? Even though they get purified, are they getting purified, or their consciousness and reading itself is different? They read to become like God.
Yes, that is one. Some cases, yes, they need to become God. They want to become God, yes, without even the desire for purification. Second thing is the intensity of attention also matters. Like, for example, Parikshit, he heard Bhagavatam for 7 days with intensity. The proportional to your intensity, the cleansing and the faith also is, it's directly proportional. So how much you want to get cleansed is how much sincere you are, how much sincerely you're hearing, how much sincerely you're speaking, how sincere you are. So Parikshit heard it and perfected. We are hearing. When are we going to perfect? I don't know. And then you look at the story of the background of the Bhagavatam. There was this Dundukari, and there's a story in Padma Purana that talks about, a person who ended up being a ghost. Because he was in the ghost body, he was very intensely hearing the Bhagavatam. He wanted to be, he was so focused in attention that he heard every single word of it. And at the end of the Bhagavatam, he got released from the ghost body. But there were other listeners too. Was their purification proportional? No. The intensity and the mood, there are a lot of things involved, yes.
Yes, Mataji. So it's not the number of classes we listen. It's like sincerity and the intensity we are to be very sincere and listen. Thank you, Mataji, for that. And one more clarification, Mataji. While talking about regulate senses, you brought up like bring raga and dvesha under control. So how do we differentiate like raga, dvesha again with lust? So what is the difference between raga, desha, and lust? And you said, Krishna said you have to bring it under control. So how do we bring raga and dvesha under control? Like for ourselves, in our practical life, like how do we bring it into control?
Okay. What is the reason? Okay, let's go to that verse itself. Let me go to raga dvesha, so that we can answer from there. Okay, let me start answering meanwhile. Raga is intense desire, dvesha is hatred, right? Dvesha is hatred, raga dvesha samudbhava. Where is the verse? Okay, so your question is, can you repeat your question, Mataji? Just give me a 2. Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yes, Mataji. So the question is the difference between raga, dvesha, and lust. How do we differentiate all the three? And Krishna says you have to control raga and dvesha. So how do we control it in our practical life? So how do I know that I have raga and dvesha, and how do I control it?
Raga to a great extent is like lust, right? So lust itself is like intense desire, intense attachment. That is raga. Raga is affection, intense affection is raga. So it is like raga only, and dvesha is hate. So extremes because of, you have these extreme emotions, raga and dvesha, they are the two sides of these intense emotions. And how do you control it? You control it by dovetailing your senses, because in the story of Ravana also we see that Ravana he had raga, dvesha, and because he had so much raga, he was lusty, right? And ultimately lust actually brought him down and he was doomed. But a person who's very, very lusty, if he can bring his senses under control through dovetailing that senses, you just don't let the senses free, you dovetail it through something that is spiritual, something that is connected to Krishna. And each of our senses can be dovetailed appropriately. Like your eyes can be dovetailed by looking at the beautiful form of the Lord. The ears can be dovetailed by Shravanam. The more and more and more you hear about Krishna Katha, the more cleansing that happens in the heart. Of course, we also spoke about the focus and intensity. The tongue can be controlled by simply honoring prasadam. So when these things are done, actually your body itself spiritualizes to a great extent, and you develop a lot of sattva guna qualities improve. Sattva guna qualities improve. You know, the first why do people talk so much about food, right? Regulating the food habits. Why do they talk so much about it? Why do they talk so much about offering and eating prasadam and all that? The reason is because sattva guna increases in the body. The more you take spiritualized food, the more you become spiritualized, the more your senses are brought under control. This raga, dvesha, these extremities of emotions, all these can be controlled through intake of spiritual stuff. So you use all your senses, try to dovetail everything to something spiritual, and eventually these qualities will come under control. You know, again and again, Bhagavad Gita will keep talking about the same thing. How do I control this? How do I control this? Everything in bhakti is all about regulating your senses through the practice of devotional service. So, I mean, answers come back to the same point, Mataji. Were you specifically looking for anything else?
No, Mataji, like that was helpful because I did not know the difference between raga and dvesha and what is lust also. But now I can understand the intense raga leads to lust, right? It's like the intense desire for something. And yeah, but so from this chapter, from your class, I get an idea that Krishna was telling Arjun, you don't renunciate, you do the karma, you do have to do the work. It's better to do your duty better than to renunciate and go, because you have to get purified before renunciation. That's the most important thing Krishna is telling. And from the last point, what you said right now, I can understand that instead of closing all your senses, I'm not going to see, I'm not going to hear anything, I'm not going to talk anything. It's better you do everything, use everything, but for Krishna, like dovetail it to spiritual. Yes, Mat. Thank you, Mataji. It's so wonderful. It's a very good class, and the slides are very wonderful, Mataji. And the explanations were extraordinary. Thank you so much for your service, Mataji. Jai Sachinandana, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Anyone else has any questions, or you would like to ask something? You would like to unmute, you would like to chat?
Thank you so much, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, for such a beautiful session and beautiful slides, like everybody said. So thank you so much. So we'll stop here. And I really request every one of you to please continue your enthusiasm more and more. And we'll get to learn more and more. And so many things will get unfolded when we read Bhagavad Gita. So thank you all so much for all your association. And now we can stop here. Vancha kalpa tarubhascha kripa sindhupa evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji ki jai. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.